Okay, order of operation. I'm going to walk you through the steps to make sure we understand as we go. PEMDAS. So the first thing we're going to do is parentheses. Well, inside the parentheses, all I have is a number. And whenever a number and a parentheses are back to back, that means multiply. So our first step is to multiply. 12 times 3. And then we place the decimal. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Move the decimal over one place. So I'm going to put 3 6/10 underneath the problem and bring everything down. Okay, so the next problem is 8 5/10 minus 3 6/10 because we got to finish parentheses. Okay, 8 becomes a 7, 5 becomes 15. 15 minus 6. 7 minus 3. Bring down your decimal. Okay, so I put it inside the brackets because I want you to see that you can leave it inside the brackets, or you could have just put a multiplication sign here because a number next to the bracket is the same as a number next to the parentheses. You're going to multiply. So that means we're going to multiply 16 times 4 9/10 first. So we're going to do 49 times 16. And then we're going to put the decimal in between the 4 and the 9.
Teachers, pardon this interruption.
Okay.
If you have any students that need to turn in their permission slips for the Big Kahuna Party Bus, if you would gather them and send them to the office with a student at this time.
Sorry for that. Okay, so 9 times 6. All right, you're going to multiply 9 times 6. And that's 54. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 5 is 29. Tic-tac-o. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 4 is 4. And then you add. 9 plus 9 is 18. 4, 5, 6, 7. I have one decimal with one digit behind it. So the decimal is going to go between the 8 and the 4. So that's 78 4/10. And then we're going to bring down the divide by 4. Now solve. 78.4 divided by 4. Okay. 4 will go into 7 one time with 3 left over. 4 will go into 38 9 times, which is 9 times 4, which is 36. Subtract, I get 2. Bring down the 4. 4 will go into 24 6 times. So your answer is 19 6/10. I'm not going to do all this work for all of them. I'm going to get you, you're going to do it. Well, I might. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, next one. Okay, I have brackets, but inside the brackets I have parentheses. If you notice here that says 3 parentheses, that means 3 times. But I'm not going to do that until the last thing because I have to do everything inside here first. So addition, addition, addition. So we're going to start from left to right. 1 25/100 plus 1 5/10. Fill in the hole. Okay, you should have gotten 2 75/100. If you didn't, check your work. So bracket 3, parentheses. Then we're going to bring down the plus, 2 5/10, plus the 1, close the parentheses, close the bracket, divide by 25. Rewriting the problem. Okay, I still have parentheses, so I'm going to solve 2 75/100 plus 2 5/10. So that's 2.75 and then 2.5. So again, we're going to fill in the hole with a 0 and add. Okay, you should have gotten 5 and 25 hundredths. Bring down the plus 1, close the bracket, divide by 25. I still have parentheses, so now you're going to solve this. Okay, that's 5 and 25 hundredths plus 1 whole. Plus 1 whole. All right, that's 3. And instead of putting a parentheses again this time, because I've solved everything in parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and make that multiplication sign. Okay, and your number is 6.25. Close the bracket, because we still have that, and divide by 25. So now you're going to solve 3 times 625. So you have to do 625 times 3. Remember, we're going to write it without the decimal, and then go in and place the decimal. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 6 times 3 is 18. The decimal has 2 numbers behind it, so I need 2 places behind the decimal in my answer. So it's going to go right there, 18.75. And then bring down the divide, 25. Okay, you can be doing all this on scratch paper. You don't need to take up your space. All right, so 18 and 75 hundredths divided by 25. So you're going to want to do a tic-tac-toe board for 25, which is pretty easy. 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200, 225. Okay, 25 cannot go into 18, but it can go into 187. Okay, it can go into an 187 7 times, which is 175. 7 minus 5 is 2. 8 minus 7 is 1. Bring down the 5. And then we're going to look and see how many times can 25 go into 125. That's 5 times. So my answer is 75 hundredths. Okay. All right. Last one on this side. First thing you're going to do is underline the parentheses, because that's what we're going to solve. So solve 7 and 77 hundredths minus 49. 4 and 9 tenths. Okay, 7 and 77 hundredths, you should have filled in a 0, subtracted. 7 minus 9 you can't do, so if you got 2, you did it wrong. You've got to borrow from the 7, make it a 6, and that becomes 17, which is going to be 8. Bring down the decimal. 6 minus 4 is 2, so that's 2 and 87 hundredths. All right. Now you're going to solve 10 and 3 tenths times 6, because multiplication before addition. So 103 times 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 6 times 1 is 6. 1 decimal, 1 decimal. So now you have 61 and 8 tenths. Plus 2 and 87 hundredths. So solve that. You should have got 64 and 67 hundredths. All right. Order of operations says parentheses first. So solve 3 and 96 hundredths minus 2 and 4 tenths. Make sure you line up your decimal. Okay, 3 and 96 hundredths minus 2 and 4 tenths is 1 and 56 hundredths. And then you bring everything else down. 2.5 times 1.5 plus. All right, so 2 and 5 tenths times 1 and 5 tenths plus 1 and 56 hundredths. There's no parentheses, but we're going to do multiplication before addition. So solve 2 and 5 tenths times 1 and 5 tenths. Remember, it's going to be 25 times 15. And then add the decimal. Okay, you should have gotten 3 and 75 hundredths. Bring down your plus, 1 and 56 hundredths. Now you're going to add 3 and 75 hundredths, 1 and 56 hundredths. You get 5 and 31 hundredths. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Tick, tack, oh. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. That's 5, 7, 3. There's 375. I squished them together, but it's okay. Okay. All right. 4 and 4 tenths times 2 plus 16 and 45 hundredths. Parentheses start first. So you're going to solve 44 times 2. Add the decimal. Okay, you should have gotten 8 and 8 tenths. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. The decimal has one place. 8 and 8 tenths. Plus 16 and 45 hundredths. Now you're going to solve that. Okay, you should have gotten 25 and 25 hundredths. 5 plus 0 is 5. 8 plus 4 is 12. Bring down the decimal. 8 plus 6 is 14. Plus 1 is 15. 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay. Order of operations says parentheses first, so solve that. Okay, pay attention. This one has more digits, but 51 is bigger than 46 when you're whole numbers. And because we're subtracting, 51 and 73 hundredths has to go on top. 46 and 49 hundredths, or thousandths, sorry, has to go on bottom. So we're just going to fill in the hole with a 0. Okay, 0 minus 9 you can't do. You have to borrow. 3 becomes a 2, and 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 2 minus 4 we can't do. It'd give us a negative number. Borrow from the 7, it becomes a 6, and the 2 now becomes a 12. 12 minus 4. Okay, 6 minus 0. Bring down the decimal. 1 minus 6 we can't do, so we have to borrow. 5 becomes 4, and the 1 becomes 11. All right, 11 minus 6 is 5. So we get 5 and 681 thousandths. So we're going to bring 2 and 7 tenths down, divided by 3, plus 5.681. All right, no parentheses, but I have a division and addition. Division has to come first. So you're going to do 2 and 7 tenths divided by 3. Okay, you should have gotten 9 tenths plus 5 and 681 thousandths, because 3 will go into 27 9 times. Now solve. Fill in the holes. You should have gotten 6 581 thousandths. Okay, last one on the side. Order of operations says parentheses first. So you're going to multiply 48 times 6. We're going to ignore that 0 because no extra work. So add my decimals. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 4 is 28. 2 decimal places. 2 and 88 hundredths. So 67 7/10 minus 2 and 88 hundredths. And subtract. You should get 64 and 82 hundredths. Okay, all right, last page. Order of operations says parentheses first. I have 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm work left to right, and I'm going to solve 8 and 34 hundredths times 2. So 834 times 2. Place my decimal. Okay, you should have gotten 16 and 68 hundredths because 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 8 is 16. I need 2 places. So 16 and 68 hundredths. And then we're going to bring down plus 5 and 12 hundredths plus 8 and 4/10. Order of operations says parentheses first. So we still have a parentheses, so we're going to solve 5 and 12. And we're adding, so it does not matter which digit goes on top. You just have to make sure that you line up your decimals and line up your whole numbers, your tenths place, and then fill in the hole for the hundredths place. Okay, you should get 13 and 52 hundredths for that. Then you're going to bring down 16 and 68 hundredths and add. Make sure you are working out correctly. You should have gotten 30 and 2/10. Okay, order of operations says parentheses first. So again, we have to solve inside the parentheses. So 58 and 95 hundredths, 21 and 67 hundredths, and we are subtracting. Okay, so make sure that you have everything lined up. You should have gotten 37 and 28 hundredths. 5 minus 7 you can't do, so you have to borrow. That becomes 15. And you subtract, you get 8. 8 minus 6, you get 2. Subtract, 8 minus 1 is 7. 5 minus 2 is 3. 37 and 28 hundredths. Bring down your division, your 2, your minus 1, and 64 hundredths. Okay, so now I don't have any parentheses. Okay, I have a division sign and a subtraction sign, and division comes first. So 37 and 28 hundredths divided by 2. Bring your decimal to the top and start with 2 will go into 3. Notice where my 1 went. Okay, when you finish, you should get 18 and 64 hundredths, and then bring down minus 1 and 64 hundredths. So 2 will go into 17 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract, I get 1. Bring down my 2. 2 will go into 12 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. Bring down that last 8. 2 will go into 8 4 times. Okay, in case you missed the division part. There it is. All right. 66 and 13 hundredths minus parentheses minus 24 and 3/10. So we have to do parentheses first. So solve 17 and 5/100 plus 6 and 93/100. It's an addition problem. Okay, you should have gotten 23 and 98/100. Then you bring down 66 and 13/100 minus, and then minus 24 and 3/10. Okay, now you're going to subtract 66 and 13/100 minus 23 and 98/100. All right, it's 42 and 15/100 minus 24 and 3/10 because we have to bring down a minus, and 24 and 3/10. Okay, now solve. Rewrite this and solve it. You should get 17 and 85/100. Okay, last problem. Order of operations says parentheses first, so solve 4 and 86/100 and 17 and 5/10. It doesn't matter which one goes on top, so we can fill in all the holes because it's an addition problem. When you add that up, you get 22 and 36/100. Bring down the division sign, bring down the 2, minus sign, 5 and 4/10. Okay, we have division and we have subtraction. Division comes before subtraction. So 22 and 36/100 divided by 2. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. Subtract. 1 times 2 is 2. Subtract. 1 times 2 is 2. Subtract. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, so your answer is 11 and 18/100. Bring down the 5 and 4/10 and the subtraction sign. Fill in the holes and subtract. And your final answer is 5 and 78/100. Okay, make sure you follow this all the way to the end so that you can get credit.